guys, it's TheFaithfulTeen. I got another story for you. It just happened just yesterday. I woke up to the sound of slipping tires. It's been really snowy here lately, in case you didn't know, and really slippery on that ice. I was lucky to make it home the night before that. But I woke up to this sound of a slipping car. I stood up, looked out my window, and I saw this woman trying to go up the hill, and she just kind of slipped back down again. And this other car came the other direction, came down, and he stopped and got out to go help her. I was kind of watching, and I'm still a newbie driver, so I didn't know what to do. So I'm just like, I don't think I can help them in any way, so I'm just going to watch them and see how they handle the situation. So if I'm ever put in the situation or I ever see the situation again, I can help them out. And so it turned out to be a whole hour ordeal of them trying to get up. They were in the middle of like a U. There was like a hill, then went up to another hill, and she was stuck in the middle of it. She came down, she couldn't get back up either way. As I was watching, the one guy tried to have her turn around, and then he wanted to have her back up and go up again, but that wasn't going to work. They kept slipping, and they got stuck over here in our yard, and it was just a lot of chaos. But eventually this one guy came down from the top of the hill. I don't know who he was, where it came from. He spun it out of our yard and got it back on the road again, and he actually used his ingenuity mind. It was a real drive, and instead of using it to drive forward up the hill, he drove it backward up the other hill, so we'd get that traction of the back wheels, be pulling it back up again. And while he had a good idea, it slid back down again. And he did this about 2 more times, and it kept sliding back down again. And it's kind of an interesting story because it always gets back to our own life, a little bit of a cliche story here, but you try, and eventually you'll succeed. Well, he kept coming up, and he kept getting closer and closer to the top of this hill, but he kept sliding back down again, and closer, sliding back down again. This was about 3 times. Like I said, this was about an hour ordeal before it was finally over, and I stopped watching because she was gone at that point. But he actually left and had just got her out of there. He left, and then the other guy, who originally had tried to help her to get turned around, he decided to get back in again, and then he tried to go up and down, up and down, up and down. And eventually, I think it was about like the 6th or 7th try getting up there, he finally got up. And this is kind of like, as I was saying earlier, it's kind of a cliche story of, if you keep trying, you eventually get to it. But it's like really hard to actually apply to our lives, because I myself have dealt with this a lot. When you start getting failure, you really start to lose hope. You really start to lose faith. And you really just don't know if you're ever going to succeed. It just gets really hard. Personal experience, I'm going to go to video gaming for any of you guys who play games. I'm still a teenager, so my voice wasn't beautiful when I started games. But I like to, state out the situation and try to help my teammates. If there was a guy coming around the corner, I'd yell guy coming around the corner. But a lot of the times I'd hear other people's voices, I'd hear other teenagers' voices, and I'd feel demoralized myself because I heard their voices and I didn't like how immature their voices sounded, and I was afraid that my voice sounded that immature too. So I'd try, but then I'd feel like nobody'd be listening, and I'd try and feel like nobody'd be listening. And I kept trying, but it just wasn't getting anywhere. And so, I was starting to lose hope and starting to lose faith. And, right when I was starting to lose a lot of hope that my voice was going to be good enough for anyone to actually listen to, because I was too young for, any of these 20, 30-year-old players to be listening to. They're not going to listen to some teenager. Finally, I don't know how I got to this, but somehow I asked somebody, what do you think my voice sounds like? And somebody said, you sound like you're 19 years old. And I'm like, at the time, that was 4 years older than what I was. I'm like, and I don't know, to myself, my voice doesn't sound that mature, but if it sounds 19 to him, then that gives me hope that regardless of what I think, if somebody else thinks my voice sounds like it's where I want it to be, at a mature stage where people are actually listening to 19-year-olds, people aren't listening to 13-year-olds. So I'm not 13 now, but at the time. It's just kind of interesting how God will swoop in when you're at your lowest and bring you back up again. And if that's not enough of a story, I can give you another story. I was trying to get a staff position for a summer camp, but it was an application process, and then you had this weekend where we had 100 applicants for staff, had to be boiled down to about 20 staff positions. And I really wanted the staff position, really believed that I could make it. And so I walked in the first time overly confident. I knew I was going to get it because I knew that I had been qualified for this position for the longest time. And so I knew that I already had it. I just thought to myself, I got it. And I'm like, if I know I got it, then God knows I got it. I got it. Well, I didn't get it. And that was just one year, one camp.